There are some things in sewing that just feel like magic, but I think that continuous bias binding might be the number one thing. It's when you take a square of fabric and you turn it into bias binding that looks insanely long for how little of fabric you use. For example, this is a full tutorial and I don't think you'll ever need any other resource for continuous bias binding ever again.
Now we're going to calculate the amount of bias binding that you need. So take the total length that you need and we're going to times it by the width of bias binding that you would like. And then once you've done that, we're going to take the square root of that number, put it in your calculator and round up. So do that plus the seam allowance times 2. For me, that was 56 centimeters. And that I'm going to do that and make sure it's a perfect square. So I'm cutting that out. I'm double checking, see my seam was a little bit off. And then you cut that square in half to create 2 triangles. Flip those open and we're going to mark on each side. I've done O's and X's, and this is just going to help us line things up correctly. So if you can see, I'm flipping it over and I'm putting my O's together. I switched it to right sides, and now I'm going to be pinning those in place. You're going to shift over that by 1 centimeter because that's our seam allowance. So there will be a little bit of a triangle hanging off the edge as you sew that across. Then you're going to iron that seam open and you're going to mark every 5.5 centimeters because that's what I chose for my width. If you have any excess fabric, cut that off. You shouldn't, but I did, so I'm cutting it off. Then you're going to take the X's and the other X and you're going to place them with right sides together. We're kind of folding this all up together and I'm going to offset those lines by 1. So normally they'd line up to make a perfect square, but we're offsetting them by 1, sewing them together, pressing that seam open again, and then we're going to slowly but carefully cut on our lines that we marked. And basically we're cutting around and around and around and around all the way till the end until you have so much bias binding. Then take it over to your iron, fold it in half and roll it up, and you will have beautiful continuous bias binding for your next big project.